Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Shaostoul, and this is the 5th episode of Modder's Mod Review, the series where we check out mods from a modder's perspective. As a reminder, if you find or are the author of a mod, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below on a mod you'd like reviewed, and I'll see what I can do. For this episode, we'll be reviewing the DarthBiomech Laser Communications Dish. This beautiful thing right here. So here we can see it's 5 stars. It's by DarthBiomech and Hazel Nuthead. Has 22,000 subs. It's been around since October or March, and it was last updated on October. So it's just about that window of whether it might not work or not. It's a simple block mod, so it should be just fine. Here we can see that it is a high bandwidth laser antenna dish allowing the established communications over 1,000 kilometers. It is compatible with vanilla laser antenna. So that means that you can use this antenna with the vanilla one and they'll connect to one another. So there's no issues of having to make sure that each one is the same thing, which is fantastic. Here he has a thread. It is a laser antenna. It is small ship, large ship, and stations. Sort of adapted to survival, and it has about 3,000 polygons with LODs. So that means that the further you get away from it, the lower poly count it gets. Alright, so everything there looks pretty much good. We're going to go ahead and boot up the game now. And give it a look-see. So we're expecting to see 2 versions of it, one for the small ship and one for the large ship. So that's all we should technically see. From our last view of Darth's mod, he might have it in its own tab, so that's something to keep in mind as well. Go ahead and just change some of these settings. And then let's look for the mod in here. And there it is. Okay. And everything looks alright, so we'll press OK. So it's pretty easy to balance some blocks to vanilla settings. The easiest thing to do is just go on a bounding box basis. So find what the value is component-wise for a 1x1x1 block, and then extrapolate from there. So if he has the laser dish to be 3x3x3, then he would use whatever the 1x1x1 of the vanilla is, and then times it by 27, I think it is. Alright, so here we are on our platform. Looking in the block menu, we should see it right there. So it's pretty easy to identify because it has actually the copper looking plating. And then on the left, we have the own tab for it. Again, same issue. And then I think it's probably going to be in the large blocks as well. Yep, right there. So everything's good on that side. It's rather thorough of him to make sure that it's in all the proper places. And we're going to just go ahead and slap one of these down over here. And we're going to slap one of these down over here. Now, they look pretty fancy. They have these copper metallic looking textures for the dish part. Some emissives on the front. Some support beams. A copper looking piece on the back, and we could pretty much see where it's going to rotate on this base down here. And the bottom block looks pretty good. It's pretty standard. It's simple enough. Can we look at the side of it, or the bottom of it? Yeah. So the bottom of the block is nothing special. It's just plain, which is to be expected for something as simple as, well, a laser dish. Now, another thing to do is to see if they connect all right. So what we'll do is slap down our nuclear reactor, come into the control panel, find the first one, copy the coordinates, paste, connect, and then copy those coordinates, paste, and connect. And if you saw it, that thing snapped around super fast. So that means that it's not going to have any issues tracking anything that it's trying to connect to, which is pretty nice. See if there's any other settings we can look at. Nope, it's pretty much standard. Takes 700 kilowatts to keep it operational. Let's go ahead and throw down the vanilla one, which is somewhere. There it is. So we get the vanilla one right there. So as we can see, it's pretty much very close to the vanilla block style wise. Just a little bit different. It looks like he probably has a little bit of UV stretching right here, because that's usually what that is, or it's like not set up properly. So that's something that he might want to keep in mind, that his UVs are stretched or not properly UV mapped. So it looks just a little bit weird. On the model on this side, we can see that it doesn't have any of that. But the devs for most all of their models use very basic textures to make sure that they don't have any issues with poly counts and stuff like that. And they just want to get the models out as quick as possible. Alright, so let's go ahead and see about connecting that one. So we got it on the side there. I should be able to just paste the coordinates and connect. And we can see that that one moves pretty fast as well. So they should be about the same speed. I'm pretty sure we could go to the block files and see how it contends there. Let's go ahead and look at some of the important information. So mount points. It looks like it's pretty much all over, so that's fantastic. The vanilla one is the same exact way, so if you're going to use this one or that one, it's just a cosmetic difference. They don't really seem to function differently. Let's go ahead and type laser in here. Yeah, that worked. Okay. So his laser antenna, the components are actually different, and it looks to be cheaper. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Except for the small ship version, that looks like that might be a little bit more expensive. It's hard to judge because the component costs are actually different. The vanilla one has the superconductor conduits, and his does not. So that's something to keep in mind as well. His is probably going to be on the cheaper and easier to obtain side. Let's go ahead and look at the small ship version. We'll just plop it right over here. And snap that right on top. And it looks like he's shrunk it down to be 1 block tall. So that's pretty cool. And it is distorted like this because it doesn't have power. So if I slap one of these on there, it'll snap right up as it should be. So that would actually look pretty cool on a small little ship now that it has this nice thin profile. Does the vanilla one have something to contend with it? Yep, it's pretty much the same thing, except just cosmetically different on that end. The power cost between the two, this one is 576 and this one is 700. So his are a little bit more expensive power-wise, but that's not too much of an issue because it is low enough that it's not going to hurt you too badly. Alright, so now that we've looked at his fantastic model, we can see that he does have just a little bit of texture stuff going on here. And it seems to be going throughout the whole model, and it's probably how he set it up to make it real quick and easy to look kind of like the vanilla one. And we could probably expect to see a texture for the copper color. I don't think any of the vanilla blocks have that. But for this basic armor texture, we probably won't see anything that I could think of. Let's go ahead and look at the physics. And here we can see that the vanilla one is actually using the mesh collision, so that's why it is a red box. And that means it's just a little bit more inefficient, supposedly, than the version here. This one is blue, more than likely because he set the collision to be that way, or if it was a single block, like an armor block. This one probably doesn't actually have a collision file, so it defaults to a cube. And I can't think of any blocks that are in the vanilla category that would actually do that, so yeah, it's just something to keep in mind. Here we can see that he actually has the collision for the top here to be the special sphere, which I believe uses the new Havoc 2014 sort of model. And if you can hear my dog drinking in the background, I'm sorry. She's kind of loud. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and hop out of game and look at the cube blocks file to see how it compares to the vanilla ones. Alright, so we're going to our mods folder, and we want to make sure that we find the mod. So coming back here, we can see that it's 404568. So it's going to be right about here, 464, so this is the one we want. So we copy, paste, scroll up, and change the end to .zip. And then we extract it to its folder and scroll up again. And here we are in the folder structure that he has. Alright, so going to the README, it's probably going to be the same as the one he had last time. And it pretty much looks that way, linking to his DeviantArt page and then his forum profile, and then some information for installing it locally or clearing out the old version of the mod, and then for installing this modification for space engineers, visit the Keen modding forums. So this is pretty much outdated information because we don't need to install mods physically anymore. It all gets done through the Steam Workshop. But it's a good idea to have it because maybe somebody's interested. Alright, so going into the textures, we can see the DarthBiomech folder, and here we can actually see a bunch of textures that he has. They look to be pretty simple. Go ahead and go to detail, maybe it'll give us a bit more information. And it doesn't seem to want to. Dimensions. Okay, so here we go. We have a 128 and a couple 512 by 512s. Going back to large icons. We can see that the textures are actually pretty simple, so if he wanted to, he could go even lower. He could go all the way down to 16 by 16 before he runs into issues. So if he wanted to get the absolute smallest mod he could, that's something he could do, but it's not necessary because the mod's already pretty small. Here we can see the icon. As usual, those are always 128 by 128, otherwise they don't work. Going into the models, here we can see all of the models. We got the arm, the base pieces, the head pieces, and the head small pieces. So this pretty much makes up the whole entire laser antenna. And here we can see he actually has some LOD models. So the further you get away from the model, the lower polygon count it uses, which is fantastic. Going back, we can see he has a block categories, and he has them all separated. He has it in the large and small blocks. He has it in ship weapons. I'm not sure how this one works. It'd be in the ship weapon tools tab, and then again, and then his personal tab right here. So this is some more information that you could probably use if you wanted to look into better sorting your mods in the block categories in the various tabs. Going into his cube blocks, we should just have 2, and we do. So here we can see they are laser antenna. He has DarthBiomech in the front, which is a good idea because in previous versions of Space Engineers, there was actually conflicts if the subtype ID of blocks had the same name. And you can still run into that issue now, but it's much less likely. However, he uses such a simple name that it is a good idea that he puts this prefix here. So that is good design right there. Here we can see he has a simple display name, not doing any of the crazy stuff that the devs do. You're able to use spaces now. You used to not be able to. Everything else looks pretty standard, nothing too special. And build time of 40 seconds for the large and the small version. And we can see that it has a damage effect ID. So this would be how it looks when it's actually damaged. So if a thruster is on fire, that means it's damaged, kind of deal. And here we can see the idle, the turning, and the lasing input. And we can see that the small version is actually just a little bit cheaper. And we can see the turn speed is the same between the two, so they're quite fast. And that they have quite the max range. That's 1,000,000, I imagine, meters. So that is a very far range for them to actually be able to reach. Alright, so I think that pretty much wraps up everything for this mod. If you wanted to check his mod out, this is definitely where you would find another example of a laser antenna that works and is beautifully done. I can't think of anything else specific about it that would stand out. He has pretty basic textures, which is perfectly fine. These type of things are good for getting a prototype out. And if you want your block to kind of look like the vanilla ones, at least the redone ones, I think they've had a couple of blocks that have had a couple iterations. So this is just before one of their new modelers getting to all their textures and stuff. I believe you can see the difference for the new gyroscopes, actually. And then compare that to, I think, a reactor, because I think they still use the old textures. But yeah, everything for his mod seems to check out. I didn't have any issues with it. All the collisions looked good, and all the empties seemed fine, and it seemed to perform exactly as it's listed. So that's another fantastic mod by DarthBiomech. Again, if you are the author of a mod, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section below. If you'd like to help me continue doing what it is I do, please check out my Patreon page. The link is in the description below. Not only does it help me out to create more mods, but it also helps those that I teach create mods of their own. It essentially allows me to dedicate more time to doing what it is I do. I'll catch you guys in the next episode. You have a good one.